Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome and good morning. I know for sure that one of the attendees has morning time. All right, let me start sharing right now, and we are going to get started. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And as I'm doing this on my own, at times I will have to just take a moment and allow others to come in, but that should not be too much. Oops, I think I just exited that person. Let me see that I can get her back in. Here we go. There we go. All right. So my apologies. Let's get started then. So thank you for being here. And the fact that you are here is telling me that you are an accomplished person, but that you are finding yourself at times, perhaps in the past or perhaps right now, in a place where you're not moving forward. And I've been there myself many times, I regret to say, but it is what it is. And I know what that feels like. And it's just that you wish you could get to a different place, but it's like you're spinning your wheels. You don't know how to move forward. And you know that there is so much more that is within you, untapped potential that would like to express itself, but you simply can't access it. You may have tried many things in the past and they haven't worked out for you yet. And there are moments when this happens, when we take those events, the things that haven't worked out, and we turn them into believing that they are failures. And that often we extend that to believing that we are failures. And then we look at ourselves in the mirror and we go, oh my God, is that all there is? Is this all you can do? Is this the best you can do? And very often what happens then is that we go into this really low and dark, depressed state. I call that the dark night of the soul. It's as if you find yourself in this place where you're all alone, lost in this dark place. And because it is dark, you find no way out of it, and no one is with you. And you go into an even deeper state of despair. But there's a moment where you hear like a voice calling your name, and you feel as if someone is pulling you, and if someone is giving you a flashlight to guide you to the wall and turn on the light in the dark. And when you get to that light, even with the smallest match in your hand, the one light in darkness is like hundreds and hundreds of lights in brightness, because what it does, it helps you to find a way to see that you have possibilities and opportunities, and to know that you are not alone. And that is the point where you shift into having hope and enriching your internal representation of the world. Tonight, that's what I hope that I'm going to give to you. The one thing for you to understand that it may not be your mindset, but there is that other thing that I will get to in a moment that could be holding you back. Furthermore, I'd like you to know that everything you need and seek is already within you, and it is seeking you as well. It's just that you haven't come together yet. And that's what I hope that you get out of this tonight, that you find a way to put these elements together. What I will be covering tonight is the problem with being stuck. What is the problem? I'd like you to understand why it is a problem and why it is important, essential for you to fix it. I will also give you some data points because it's not something that I've just made up, woke up and said, oh yeah, that's what it is. No, there's data. And then I will give you 3 techniques that will, when you use them, not only in crisis and when you find yourself under stress, but regularly, because you're starting to create new neural pathways that will help you shift into that other direction. And oh, before I forget it, I also have some bonuses for you in that I will share with you in a moment that will help you and guide you even further into finding forms of relaxation and ways to help you to get through. Let's start with the problem. Why smart people keep making the same mistakes? I guess they're not that smart, or perhaps they just don't have the tools. That happens to have been me as well, because I know that in the past, I have tried many, many different things, and they may have worked for someone, but they didn't work to me. For me, it was generalized. It was something that I read here or there. Very often, what we believe is that perhaps it's because we don't know enough, we're not smart enough, we don't have the ambition because we're lazy, but that is not the case. The fact is, what's really happening is that you get stuck in survival mode. What that looks like when you're operating from your default system is that you are coming from a place of panic, from fear, from reactivity. It's as if you are under attack, which is why you're going into your survival mode. It's nothing abnormal, it's perfectly normal. And when there is truly a crisis moment, I'd like to make sure that you understand that it works perfectly. But daily, when we abuse and misuse it, it becomes dysfunctional like everything else. What it looks like when you are operating under duress and stress, you're simply handling affairs. You're not finding solutions. You're not even seeking solutions. You need to get out of the crisis, because imagine your house is on fire. Would you be doing a 5-year plan? Certainly not. You need to get out of there. So you're handling, you're reactive, you're simply reacting to what's going on around you. And you feel trapped. Because basically, when you're under threat, that's the feeling that you get. You are a victim, you're trapped. Their coping mechanism, simply coping to get through this moment. And perhaps then, should the system relax, you can move on. What does that usually look like when you're in survival mode? Avoidance, frustration, procrastination, which leads very often, in order to withdraw ourselves and to keep ourselves away from this problem and the onslaught, we choose isolation and separation. What happens is there is a disconnect and a fragmentation in our internal system. That's what you're suffering from. The hidden truth is that we're doing this to ourselves. No one is doing this to us. But we don't know that we're doing it because it's part of our nervous system. And that's the problem. As I addressed, the problem that you are additionally doing is isolation, which happens to be the worst thing that you can do, is in a moment of crisis to isolate yourself. Let me give you an analogy. Years ago, when I was in the nursing industry, one of my nurses, her husband, it was Thanksgiving, and there was a lot of company in her house, and he felt an asthma attack coming on. He was so embarrassed about being in this state of anxiety and stress and in front of all the people. So he removed himself into the garage, and unfortunately he passed away because no one was there to help him. That is very crass example, but when you choose to go into isolation because you're so embarrassed about your problem, you can't find another perspective, another viewpoint, another opinion either, or someone who can pull you out and help you. So the isolation, that plateau that you feel so embarrassing and then choose to avoid, creates even bigger problems, and more so in a moment. From this perspective, what's happening to you is that life is happening to you. You are a victim instead of being the creator, which is when you are, life is happening as you. To you is the victim state. By you is when you are already taking charge. For you, it's coming towards you because of you, because you're making the changes. Through you is when it flows, and as you, you're becoming the creator of your life. Yes, we are all at some stage in the to you, but again, that's the victim stage. The problem, it's a problem when you're stuck because you fight yourself constantly. And you will probably know this state is when you have that internal struggle. There is one part that pulls you one direction, there's the other part that pulls you another direction, and you really don't know which way to go. That is because something in you tells you there's gotta be a better way. But if only you knew. And by fighting yourself constantly, you add more stress to the system, more disruption, disconnection, and dysregulation. The problem is the chronic nervous system dysregulation. Again, I'd like to stress the system is designed for actual threat. In our world today, more so perhaps than ever before, we always say that, but there it is. So there is a lot of stress on us these days. The stimulus is the trigger. You react. Then there are the fight and flight responses, which is the stress response, right? So you go on to that high, and that high can actually be rather addictive because there's an excitement, a thrill, an energy flush going through you. But then you drop down into that low. When you're in this low, you're more vulnerable to the next trigger, and you overreact, and again, and you're doing it over and over again. It's like you're conditioning your internal alarm system. And I'll tell you in a moment how that works. The limbic system and the amygdala, you're conditioning it to be on super, super alert. So everything puts it into the alarm state. And this may be the actual problem, the fire in your fireplace. Meantime, you're creating through your perspective in this constant heightened alert to the forest fire, the immediate survival threat to your life. Overreacting. So what happens is that you pull all your resources, like a firefighter who is being called out to fight all the external fires, right? You're sending all your people, that's your energy, your hormones, your chemicals, pulling it, your oxygen and your blood, pulling it from your internal organs, from your nerves, your muscles, to put it into your fight or flight. And then you drain yourself. And what happens when you drain? This is what happens, especially when every time when it's over and you come down, you realize that wasn't a real threat at all. Or was it? You never know, but it leaves you drained and exhausted. That's why you wake up in the morning going, oh, I am so drained and I'm already in a reactive state because sleep deprivation leads to precisely that. So you're already drained and everything triggers you. The person on the way to work that cuts you off triggers you. And the day goes on and goes downward from there. The next problem that you're dealing with is when the pattern locks down. So you go into survival mode and it shuts everything else down. It must do that because, again, if there were a real fire, and you have consider your body and your systems as your storefront, you have to shut everything down in your storefront and you have to do everything to protect yourself. So there's the lockdown and the shutdown. That means all your other systems are in lockdown and shutdown. And that creates a huge problem. I'll tell you more. Avoiding the stimuli because you are choosing not to be triggered. You don't want to get triggered all the time because you know you react, you know it riles you up. But then what you're doing is you're moving away into this isolation and it doesn't serve you. Because while you are choosing to avoid, you're also creating a further imbalance in your mind. By doing the avoidance thing, you're creating a bigger problem and lowering your own resources. So that is an additional problem. Another one of my clients has a very traumatic childhood. And what happens with that is this child could never relax into feeling safe and not being in this survival mode. So she trained, by the way, that's not her name. She trained herself to always be on high alert, always 24/7 on high alert, which meant what? The prefrontal cortex shuts down. That's why children who come from broken homes, traumatic experiences, or living in war zones have difficulty with learning and remembering facts because their prefrontal cortex is shut down as their limbic system is on high alert. She avoided to be happy. She felt that if she experienced joy and fun and happiness, that she was more vulnerable, and she couldn't allow herself to be more vulnerable because then life would happen to her. She had to be safe. And although illogical, she believed that on high alert, she will be more focused and in paying closer attention. When in reality, all you're doing is you're depleting your resources and you're going into the exhaust state where really you're not in an alert and in a state where you pay attention. So there is that. Why is it a problem? Well, because if you're in this problem and you're in this problem all your life, it is very hard to live your life and to enjoy your life. On top of that, of course, it starts affecting your health because when you are in this constant alert state and the adrenaline and the cortisol are running through you, it affects your body. And when your body and your mind affected, it affects every aspect of your life, from your relationships to yourself and to others, with your career, your finances, your well-being, your health. Everything is affected by it. Your energy drains faster. It leaves you exhausted because you're putting it out in all the areas out there around you, and you can't keep up with it. And the more exhausted you are, the more vulnerable become, and round it goes. The frustration compounds. That's right, because the more stress you feel, the more you feel burnt out, and the more of you can't access the resources that you know. So the frustration leads to more aggravation, and the aggravation leads to being in more of that survival mode. So you keep going round and round in circles. It's critical to solve this because, of course, when you are in a survival mode, you're always on high alert in the stress mode, that upper cycle that must bring you down, and therefore you are in the exhaustion mode, and you're shooting your bullets to all the things outside, when the real issue is an internal thing. And it's not a mindset, but it's a nervous system problem. The problem has to do with your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous systems. The sympathetic is the fast, reactive, emotional one. It is connected with your limbic system, and your sympathetic, obviously. The second system is the parasympathetic, and it's the relax and calming system that's also connected to your prefrontal cortex, where cognitive decision-making and structure and strategies are formed, the thinking, the responsive brain. The sympathetic system is in charge of the fight and flight. The limbic system and the amygdala, which is part of the reptilian brain. Now, these parts are the more, the earliest parts of our brain that get developed, and also the oldest. And their main intention is to keep you safe and protected. When stress is perceived, real or imagined, there's a release of adrenaline and cortisol so that you can either fight or flee. So it, as I said, it takes it from all parts of your body, from your cells, your organs, and puts it into your defensive or offensive mechanisms. So you become overstimulated. And what it does, it shuts down, as when you are under attack, it shuts down that you can see any other possibilities, because at this moment, survival is the only thing that matters. But it drains, of course, your energy and your capacities. And this is the part of the brain, the limbic system, and here is the reptilian complex. When this is active, this must shut down. They can't operate at the same time, which is why you can't think yourself out of the problem. You react. The parasympathetic system is responsible for the freeze and fawn. So when you are in the freeze and fawn, it activates the dorsal vagal pathway, the connection between the brain and your gut. Yes, your gut is the other brain. So that overstimulates your calming and relaxation to the extent that you freeze or go into the fawns, and you're fawning your own death so that you survive this onslaught. Again, when it is overused, then it becomes a problem. Parasympathetic, when it is normal, you're in a calm, connected, and a creative state. The prefrontal cortex is open. You can think your way through situations. You can see. You're open-minded. You are full of energy, and you have full capacity, and you're focused on growth and moving forward. This is what it looks like when it is imbalanced. When you are in the sympathetic, this is all the way up, while the parasympathetic is down. In the reverse, if you are in the Fries and Fawn, the parasympathetic is up and your sympathetic is all the way down. Either way you look at it, when there's an imbalance and the imbalance is chronic, it's 24/7. That's when you have a problem, and the problem is with your nervous system. The other aspect of this is when you feel you are constantly in a state of fear, it brings out this state of anxiety in you. You feel it really like taking over in your chest. And what happens is that it feels so uncomfortable. I can tell you this, when in the past, I said to myself, I must go to a networking meeting. And I really started to feel the anxiety coming up. And the more the anxiety, when I allowed it to come up, there was one thing that I wanted most, and that was relief. I can't do this. I won't do it. No. And so it gave me temporary relief. But what it really did was it made that networking this huge monster in the room. It was like, oh, I can never do this again in the future, because I undermined my internal resources. I undermined myself. So as you go through this, and every time you avoid going through the problem and facing it and dealing with it, you make the problem bigger while you're underestimating and taking away from yourself the imbalance. So that's the other aspect of the seesaw. Why it matters? Well, you can't think yourself out of your nervous system. It just, again, it shuts down. Your thinking shuts down. The way through it is through these 3 stages. It takes you from survival stage. From the survival, you need to get to feeling safe. That's your first step, from survival to feeling safe. By working with your nervous system, by relaxing, calming it down, by recalibrating and rewiring it, you're getting to safety. From safety, you get into the flow. You start regulating yourself, and from flow, you go to freedom. These are the 3 steps from safety to freedom, where then in this freedom state, your system is calm, you can see the possibilities and the potential, and you can redefine who you are and reintegrate all the parts that make you, creating that wholeness that we all require in order to function optimally. What really is changing is that your mind is shifting from unconscious reactivity to resourcefulness. That's right. Instead of shooting it out there, we're using these resources for ourselves to restore our inner safety and clarity through conscious regulation and cognitive reframing. When safe and out of survival, that's when you can start working on yourself towards growth. I wanted to give you the 3 data points because I didn't just make this up. All right. Chronic stress impairs cognitive function. So this is a study from the Boston Medical Center that found that, as you can read, and I will read it to you, that stress is associated with cognitive decline across multiple domains. Studies show that exposure to chronic stress contributes considerably to the development of cognitive impairment, affecting working memory and cognitive flexibility, plus behavioral inhibition. I know that when we experience it, we go through that. The locus of control strongly predicts mental health. Locus of control in this case is external control, external locus, my apologies. So people with a more external locus of control, believing things are happening to them, they're the victim, are predicted with higher anxiety and severity, depression severity. Research with college students showed that those with higher chance externally had significantly higher risk of anxiety and depression. And anxiety and depression, they egg each other on. So that on top of that. And the third data point is that the stress response system can get stuck. Absolutely. I believe that we've all been there. Harvard Medical School research explains that chronic stress keeps your sympathetic nervous system activated like that motor idling for too long, contributing to numerous health problems and preventing the parasympathetic brake system from calming you down. The health problems are your heart, your blood pressure, stroke, diabetes, lung issues, gut issues, reproductive issues. There are tremendous amount of health issues that happen when you are constantly in the overdrive. Why this matters to you? Well, when you're in survival mode forever and ever, or let's put it this way, for far too long, you simply forget, number one, what it feels like to not be there. You also forget how to take yourself into that rest mode. I remember recently that I was spinning. There was an event in my life that caused me to go into this stress response. And although I knew better, I couldn't calm myself down until a massive event, which was a minor accident, stopped that part. But then, of course, was the other one. Not the best way to go, just saying. So it's a biological state that you can shift if you know how to do this. And I'm going to show you 3 techniques right now. So here we go. The stop technique. So S is for the stop and scan, T for a regulating breath, O for observing your nervous system, and P for proceeding with regulation. So this is what you do. First thing, when you recognize that you are in overdrive, that you are starting to go into anxiety or you're stressed to the hill. Notice what's going on in your body right now. Write it down. Journal it over time. That's what I'm trying to say. In the moment, you may not be able to write it down because you're so stressed, but just do the observation. Are your jaws clenched? Is your shoulder, your neck, your heart, your voice, is your face flushed? What is the sound of your voice? So by noticing what you're noticing, also pay attention to your legs and to your hands. Is there any tingling? Do you have restless leg? Pay attention to that. Then what I'd like you to do is start working with your breath. So I suggest you close your eyes because you disconnect the state. So start with a disconnection. Inhale to a count of 4 through the nose. Hold to a count of 4. And then exhale through your mouth to a count of 7 or 8, I highly recommend that you do make a sound like because that activates your vagus nerve and signals safety. So you are additionally supporting that. Then observe your nervous system and ask yourself, am I in survival mode or responsive mode? What's going on? Also ask yourself, what brought this on? It's just about noticing. You, by creating awareness, you become aware of the things that trigger you. So in the future, you don't need to do the same pattern again and again. And then proceed with regulation. So when you are calm, you can respond versus react. Why this works is, as I said, you can't think your way out of it. So by going into a more relaxed state, your system will sense that you're safe. You've done everything to give the signal you're safe. So now, in this moment, you can start, your prefrontal cortex can open up and you can think your way through this. To do this only when you are in a stress state is not the optimal way to do it, because you won't remember what to do and you have not created a habit. I highly recommend do this 3 times a day to just create a new habit and a new practice. The other one that I really like is the 1-point focus. So here's what you do. When you feel that stress, the anger coming on, you pause, close your eyes, and turn your pupils to an imaginary point at the 20-degree level. So as they're closed, focus on something, okay? And then what I'd like you to do is focus your attention on the 1 point, which is above your navel, below your heart. You can put your hand there. And it's in the core of your body, so between the belly and your spine. And focus all your attention on that 1 point. And then do the same inhale and exhale. And imagine filling your body with life force, with white light or white cells, white blood cells, whatever works for you. Just flush your system with this. And as you exhale, let go of what no longer serves you. Do this until you find that you are relaxed. And now you can add on. There's always more, right? You can now add on something that you'd rather have or rather experience. Now, you can either remember a time or imagine a time when you are totally excited, confident, successful, happy, you name it, all right? And imagine, closed eyes, imagine you see yourself on a screen in front of you. Now, what you do is you make that image bigger, brighter, bolder, tons of light into it, and then make the sounds really super uplifting and exciting. And that feeling that of success and confidence and joy, let that feeling really bubble up. And when you really are pretty much at the height of it, float into that you on the screen and see what you see through your own eyes, hear what you hear, and feel this amazing feeling. And then double that feeling and double the feeling and double the feeling, and really let that feeling of amazing confidence, success, joy come up. And when you're at the top, just either put your hand on your chest like that, or a power symbol, or take 2 fingers and put it on your knuckle and take it off And then you can repeat it 3 or 4 times and keep doing this so that you anchor this state into your subconscious mind. And then you step out of it and you feel amazing. The more you practice this, the more you can instantly access this after you do your calming down, and you just put your finger on your knuckle or on your chest, and you bring that amazing state back up, and you now feel what you'd rather experience, and it shifts your nervous system. You will notice that your physiology is starting to change. You stand straighter. Your gestures are more relaxed. Your arms are more relaxed, more powerful at the same time. And you know, psychology must follow physiology as physiology follows psychology. So when you lead here with this amazing state, your physiology follows, but it also circle event guides your psychology. So that's how you create a peak performance state. What I'd like you to know is that there's truly nothing wrong with you. You're stuck. Most of us have been stuck at some point. And if you can create the being in the survival mode and being stuck, don't you think that you can undo it, right? If you could create it, you can uncreate it. But perhaps you don't know how to do this. But what I'd like you to know is that your nervous system is adaptable. You're not alone, and it's not about willpower. It has nothing to do with willpower, because if you think that it works with willpower, you push harder and harder, you try more, you try harder, and the harder you try, the worse it gets, because it's not about willpower. Here's what I'd like you to know. It can shift. Breakthrough momentum is possible, but you must start with regulation, not motivation. I just like to suggest that you be motivated to regulate. There's got to be a little bit of motivation of creating change. And here, this is really important. If you don't pay attention, you pay with pain. If you don't pay attention to the symptoms in your body, to that tension in your chest. I was sitting the other day in the car with an elderly lady. She was driving. She's 90. And I wish that I had been driving. Believe me, I noticed the tension coming up in my body as we hovered in 2 lanes. Yes, we took 2 lanes. And yes, Florida and older drivers, it probably is very true. We were in one of those cars. And as we were sitting in the restaurant, she invited me because I helped her calm her nervous system down. As we were sitting in the restaurant, I observed what I was doing. I was constantly doing this with my hands because I had to release the tension. I noticed my leg was shaking because I had to get rid of the tension from this very relaxed drive over, 5-minute drive. I paid attention so I don't pay with pain, because that will affect every area of your life. Regulating is hard to do when you're doing it by yourself. And here's the thing. And you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what to do you? It is even more difficult when you find yourself in this survival mode, when you're stuck in survival mode, because you really can't think yourself out of it. You can't find the safe place. Otherwise, you probably would have found it. I gave you some tips. They work. Believe me, use them. So when you try to do this on your own, you can start to regulate your system. But that's just the one step, is it not? But take that step. Use those techniques that I've shared with you. It is a first step. What blocks your breakthrough is usually you're operating in a state of overwhelm. Everything is coming at you. When you're in overwhelm, you're going into stress. But here is the good news. Overwhelm is a sign of growth. And all you have to do, first thing to do, is take that step. Calm the system down. And then, of course, the one thing that keeps most people from succeeding is the knowing and doing gap. You know that the thing that you ought to be doing is good for you, but you just don't do it, although you know. How many people know that it's really good for them to go work out, to live a healthy lifestyle, but they don't do it? They just can't do it on their own. That's why we have why we have coaches. That's also why we have teachers. If I had sent my kids to school and saying, you know, there's no teacher, but at that time we didn't have chat. But today I would say, go grandchildren, go take chat. I don't have any yet, but in any event, go work with ChatGPT. You'll be fine. How would that work? I don't think it would be a great motivator, and it would not get them to find what's right for them. Doing it alone takes also forever. And there's one thing you can never get back, and that is time. You may save money, but not in the long run, because the longer you stay stuck, the longer you don't up level and go that step higher and that step higher. You don't go forward. You're staying stuck. And here's the biggest danger. When you're staying stuck for too long, you may shut down completely and you may not go anywhere. And that is a life not well lived. That's when you're closed, when you shut down and you've just given up. Question is that really the way you want to go? The reality is also that most people start out strong Monday morning. Yes, let's go. And then they encounter that little bit of resistance, the friction, and the avoidance, and their energy simply fizzles out. I was working with someone who started out strong on Mondays. On Tuesdays, it was about his health. On Tuesdays, there was something that he didn't do. He ate the wrong thing. And that was it. Boom, over with the diet. And it was avoided until the next Monday, only to be repeated. Problem is, the more you repeat it, the more uninspired and unexcited you get. You just give up. That's right. Smart people work smarter. That's right. Sometimes they also work harder. It's not true that they only work smarter. They sometimes work harder too, but at least they're not working harder doing the wrong thing. How many people do the wrong thing and they put all that energy in doing the wrong approaches and they're wasting all that time? And what I've covered here today is for everyone because it is a workshop. But you are unique, you have unique needs, and you are in a unique situation. Here's the truth, that kids need a teacher. We need trainers and coaches, and everybody knows that you can go farther, faster with a guide who has done it before. That's the way you get there, not only faster, but with clarity and with a strategic plan, instead of just bumbling through that darkness that you find yourself in. This is my journey, and what I have chosen to do in order to become more rounded, more holistic, and have a multitude of approaches that I can help you with. I'm a certified life coach. I've studied, I have a diploma in clinical hypnotherapy, master practitioner of NLP, positive psychology, time therapy, and I'm right now in another course that until I complete it, I will not mention it here. I've written 2 books, and they're all to help the books are there to help the reader to find that way to make their lives easier and better and more joyous. And the fastest way to your breakthrough is to having me help you. Now, but you have, so that I customize what you've learned here today. The first step, and this is what we've done today, the first step in this journey is finding relief. The relief that helps you to get out of your stressed and anxious and out of your freak out state. But when you're in that state, it's very hard, unless you've practiced this, which I suggested, to get there. The journey to help you calm your system down, your nervous system, is to get from survival to safety. The fact that you're in this workshop and have made it to this point tells me that you're ready to rewire your mind by shifting from unconscious reactivity to your resourcefulness. So tapping into those resources that are waiting to express themselves, to restore that inner sense of safety. Because without that, you cannot return the system to normal and go through conscious regulation and cognitive reframing. From safety, you go into your flow state where things are moving and flowing. That's right. You're ready to regulate your body and releasing tension, as I did in the restaurant, balancing your energy and transforming rigidity into resilience. That's what you really want. And flow, when you move through it without that resistance and the avoidance. And that leads you to freedom. And in this moment of freedom, you can redefine yourself. You are turning from emotional, you're pulling all the parts that make you you into one whole aspect, into coherence, intuition, and alignment. All elements of you, all parts are working together, very much like an orchestra where there are many, many players, and they all come together and they're playing a beautiful piece of music with you as the conductor. That's how that works. And you have a choice. You can repeat or evolve. Repeating means, of course, you're staying stuck and you're wondering, what if this doesn't work? All the what ifs are coming up as you're holding on to past pain. But the pain you know is better than perhaps the pain that may hit you. You will always find yourself in pain. It's either stuckness pain or growth pain. Which would you rather have? Because there's always going to be friction, and because without friction, there is no life. Something has to give. Evolving is about leaning into the future, being in the flow, and being in freedom, flexible, seeing possibilities, being a possibilitarian. My coach uses that. What if this is a new way, and what if this works? Those are the questions you ask, and that's an easy decision. And here's what I've got for you. As I pointed out, I have some bonuses for you. And this is a recording that I have made with a number of practices and techniques that you can start using right now. I've made it for a client, but I have made it available, and I'd love to give it to you as your bonus. And this is what you will get this recording. Plus, you will get my Wellness Without Worry book for free. And you will learn more things about anxiety's grip on you and techniques to help you to get out of it. And I'm giving this to you because I want to help you to shift from reactive to responsive, from going, I can't, to I can, and to I am going there. And the fact that you are in this room is that you want change. You're ready, and you do have a choice. It can either happen now or later. And you can either be in charge, and it can be by design, or it can be by default, whichever you choose. You're here because you want more. You want that flashlight in the dark and see that you really have more options and possibilities and enrich your life rather than finding yourself all lost and alone and suffering without need. And this is the invitation that I have for you, to hop on a free call with me, a 40-minute free session. And I will put this in the chat right now. Let's see, I can put this right now in the chat. I'm giving you two different ways to sign up to get on my calendar, either the marina.coach/apply or the other one. Last time I had a little problem with one of them, so I'm giving you these two. So my invitation to you is, hop on a call with me and we brainstorm. I will ask you a few questions that will help me to help you to give you some strategies. I will be asking you questions and finding out what ways you can help yourself to get out of it. And if it feels right for you to discuss with me what working looks like, what working together looks like, we can do that or not. And there I have a lot of ways that you can do that, and we can discuss that. But my suggestion is, get on a call, take me up on my free offer. It's from my heart. I give these talks every week, but the best way for me to focus on you directly is by hopping on a call. So do it now before your ego tells you, ooh, maybe not. Just do it now. And also what I've noticed is that people book the calls and then don't show up. Show up. I will help you, whether you work with me or you don't, whether you join my group program or not. I'm here to help you. So with that, I will turn the recording off.